Day 32. I want to start out by reading some Bible verses today. We'll start in Ezekiel 36, verses 24 through 26. And it says, "For I will take you out of the nations. I will gather you from all the countries and bring you back into your own land. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your impurities and from all of your idols. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." I really enjoy reading those verses. It makes me really lock in to the last sentence there, the last couple sentences where it says, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." Because God is explaining his power there and his promise to transform and renew us and renew the heart of his people, to transform and again replace this hardened and unresponsive heart that we can definitely grow in this world of distraction, this world of bitterness, in this world of war that we reside in, and replace that with one that's tender and responsive to his will. And earlier in the verses, more like verses 24 and 25 there, that kind of hits me in a different way, where it's talking about God saying he's going to sprinkle clean water on us and we will be clean, and he's going to cleanse us from our impurities and all of our idols, which, again, to be clear, like idols, to me, it's not just the false gods or statues that people were worshiping back in the day, but it's anything that we put in front of us that replaces God. And in our lives, like, I don't think many people wake up every day and say, oh, like, I've got these specific idols, or they're intentionally like worshiping these idols. But our phones, for example, man, wow, like that's it. If that's going to distract you for the majority of your day, that's absolutely an idol. If it's your sports team, and I've been a victim of that, where a lot of your happiness is wrapped up into how this game's going to go, it can certainly be an idol. Your kids or other things in your life can be, idols if it's distracting you and taking your attention solely on these worldly things more so than the plan and the will of God that he has laid out for us. So taking inventory of that, I think, is really important. But again, it's just those verses, it's just a proclamation that God can transform and renew our hearts to ones that revert back to his plan and his will for us. And the quote that I have today, it says, "Real transformation requires real honesty. If you want to move forward, get real with yourself." And just kind of some rhetorical questions that I had written down for myself and for anyone listening to this is like, when's the last time that you've been really honest with yourself about your situation and about the things that are going well in your life and about the things that are not going well? And for those things specifically that are not going to plan, the goals that you aren't meeting, or the life circumstances that are not up to par with what God's calling us for those things that aren't going well, when's the last time that you've accepted responsibility for those things, like personal responsibility? Like, I'm the one that got me here. I'm the one taking accountability for this. Or are you blaming other external circumstances or external factors? That's what's called the victim loop. So when's the last time that you've really looked yourself in the mirror, taken that inventory, and then really taken responsibility for the things that aren't going well? And then when you've gotten those steps completed, then have we been really honest with ourselves to say, okay, today's the day that I'm going to commit to changing those things that aren't going well, the things that I'm accountable for that need corrected, and committing that very day to making the change that you've known probably subconsciously for a long time that you've needed to make. Because when it comes to course correcting and positively changing the things that you know are not optimal, you've got two options. You can say, I'm doing it right this minute because it's overdue and I'm convicted and I'm at rock bottom and I'm ready to make the change. Or you can say, starting next Tuesday, because that's when my week's going to slow down, or starting January 1, starting when the weather cools off, or, when the weather warms up or cools off a little bit or whatever, or starting when I get back from that trip that I have planned this summer. Like, you can put any time frame on it. But if you're not, and again, not trying to be harsh, I've been very much that way in the past with certain things. Oh, I'm going to get to it. But the way that you break it down is and you've probably heard this before, it's a day one or 1 day mentality. You're either going to start today, or you're going to make an excuse and put a time frame around it that is more convenient. And that just means you're waiting for 1 day down the road. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not being rude or harsh or anything, because I've been there, but the facts are, if it is a 1 day thing, even if it's like tomorrow or starting at midnight or starting next year, whenever the time frame is, if it's not today, you're simply just not committed to making the change yet. And that's okay, I guess, but you have to be honest about, like, well, I'm just not committed yet. I'm not ready. I'm not willing to sacrifice. I'm not willing to go all in to change this thing. But you have to be real with yourself. I don't think it's fair to yourself to live in the delusion to be like, hey, this is really important to me, but I'm going to make the change later. Because if it's really, really important, especially if it's these big things in life that need course correcting, it really needs to be important today. So just being honest with yourself is, if you're not truly ready to start, changing the meal plan today, if that's your goal, or getting back in the gym, if that's your goal, or, diving into the word and committing to Jesus with your heart, soul, and mind, like whatever the goal is you have laid out, if you're really not ready to start today, I would argue that you haven't really hit the rock bottom that you need to really make that change, and the change won't happen. So maybe it's the question of, how do we get to that rock bottom, or how do we convince ourselves that we don't want to go any further in that direction, and just have that realization that, like, we have got to make the change, stepping 1 foot in front of the other, inch by inch. Like, there's a video I had, I think it was like day 12 a few weeks back, about inching closer to that light, and knowing that you're not going to be there yet, but whatever your goal is, being like, hey, this is my last straw. This is the day I'm going to change said thing, and I'm going to just put 1 foot in front of the other to inch closer and closer. And the hardest part's the first couple weeks of whatever change you're making, but you're going to be one step closer, not going to be gratified because it's going to suck at first, but then that delayed gratification is going to set in day after day, week after week, and you're going to thank yourself for it later. So again, God tells us He will remove from us our hearts of stone and gives us, hearts of flesh. Hopefully that sticks with you and what that means. And again, just real transformation requires real honesty. If you want to move forward, just be so willing to get real with yourself and have that hard conversation with yourself. Take accountability for what's gone wrong. And it's going to be hard to do that. It's going to be embarrassing to do that, like, to yourself. But that's going to be what really prompts real change. And be honest with the people around you about what's going on, because it's going to help them lead to more positive changes in their life if they see you're willing to kind of fall on your sword and take accountability for the things that have gone wrong in your own life. So that's my advice, and that's day 32.